Hi everyone, it's Justin here, Voices for Voices. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the show. Whether you're watching, whether you're listening, whether you're here in the United States or across over 100 countries, 1,100 cities worldwide, we are grateful to have you with us, especially for this episode. It is a treat for me, and I know it is a treat for you. So we're going to start out by sharing our guest bio, so we can learn a little bit more about her. If you're unfamiliar with who Shannon Miller is, so we're going to just go top to bottom. I'll be quoting the bio, and then we're just going to have a conversation about all of her experiences or triumphs, hitting some valleys, and then coming out on top where she is today, being the great advocate and being a real uh, is a role model. So we'll get started here. So we'll be quoting the bio that her team sent over. So here we go. Shannon Miller competed in two Olympic Games, earning seven Olympic medals, which were two gold, two silver, and three bronze. She's the only female athlete to be inducted into the United States Olympic Hall of Fame twice. First as an individual in 2006, and then second in 2008 with the team. Shannon has won an astounding 59 international and 49 national competition medals, and over half of these have been gold. It's remarkable. She is the first U.S. gymnast to win back-to-back all-around titles with a total of nine world medals. In her tally of five medals, two silver, three bronze at the 1992 Olympics, was the most medals won by a U.S. athlete in any sport. At the 1996 Games, she led the Magnificent Seven to the U.S. women's first ever team gold, and for the first time for any American gymnast, she captured gold on the balance beam. And we'll toggle to a picture as she's speaking. She has a great photo of her on the balance beam performing. So you'll get to see that. After retiring from Olympic competition, Shannon received her undergraduate degrees in marketing and entrepreneurship from the University of Houston, and she also earned her law degree from Boston College. Just remarkable. Shannon remains a part of the Olympics and gymnastics communities as an analyst and a commentator. And in January of 2011, Shannon was diagnosed with a rare form of ovarian cancer. She had the baseball sized tumor removed successfully and followed up with an aggressive chemotherapy regimen. Shannon is currently cancer free and continues to be a strong advocate for early detection, awareness, research, and survivorship. Shannon is the founder and CEO of Salto Health, which connects cancer survivors with the products and services often needed during the cancer journey, enabling survivors to easily share those needs through personalized gift registries, helping loved ones to provide meaningful, timely, and personalized support. Shannon is a mother of two, a cancer survivor, author, and sports analyst, but she will be forever remembered for her focus, determination, and as the leader of the Magnificent Seven. Wow, so many accomplishments. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. Uh, why don't we get started on at the beginning of the bio, talking a lot about uh, performing at a high level, just to give people an idea of what that looks like. Because as we just had the Winter Olympics, time goes by so fast as far as the performance that sometimes maybe people can get lost in how much preparation goes into going into wanting to be an Olympian, wanting to get better, just to give people an idea that if they're looking at wanting to follow in your path of how much hard work and time that it takes just to get to the point to have, those couple minutes.
Absolutely. Well, and I think every sport is a little different, especially with regard to age ranges and when you need to start a certain sport. With gymnastics, obviously, it's a younger person's sport, although it's been great in recent years and in really the last decade. Athletes have proven that it isn't just for teenagers. You can do gymnastics at a high level up in through your 20s. So that's fantastic. But during my time at 19, I was considered over the hill, washed up, make room for the young ones coming along. But if you think about it, and to your point, a lot of times we see that gold medal moment. We see that 30 seconds or 90 seconds. For me, my gold medal balance beam routine was all of 90 seconds long. And yet that 90 seconds was built over 10 years from the time I started in the sport at 5 years old, but really when I started competing at 9 and was training 40 hours a week from the age of 9 all the way through that next 10 years, year round. And so I loved it. You couldn't get me out of the gym. I wanted to be there. And I was so excited to really just learn new skills. I loved the challenge of learning something new or trying to perfect something. And during that time, 10.0 was a perfect 10. That was your top score. And so I loved going in the gym or into competition and challenging myself to get as close to that 10.0 as I possibly could. And so that's what drove me more so than medals or titles. But when you put in all of that work and when you love what you do, it doesn't make it easy. The path has its ups and downs, but it does make it worthwhile. And so when I look back at my career, um, the medals are beautiful and they're wonderful, but they really are just symbols of all of that hard work that I put in, but also the hard work by so many others, my coaches, the support of my parents, the trainers that patched me up, got me back out on the floor, even my teachers who helped me stay up with my education along with chasing that Olympic dream. There's so much involved in that 90-second moment.
Yeah, I was lucky to be able to talk to Oksana Bayul uh, last year, and she was talking about kind of her journey with figure skating and how she had mentioned it that there's two sides of a gold medal or any medal, and one is what the public sees, and then one is like you just mentioned all the hard work, all the determination, all the people, the support to get you there. So I think that's an important as well. How did it feel once you learned that you were going to make it or that you had qualified for the your first Olympic Games? Was there uh, like how did that like do you remember that moment like where you were at after your performance and then you found out and then it kind of started to uh, go, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be in the Olympics.
Well, I will tell you, I remember that very, very clearly because that year, so I had competed in 1991 at the World Championship in Indianapolis, and that was my first World Championship. And for me, I was never one of those kids at 5 years old that was like, I'm going to be an Olympic gold medalist. I had never even seen the Olympics at that point. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what gymnastics was. For me, for me, it was really just this culmination. It was okay, can I make it to the state competition? And then after that, it's regionals and nationals, and then you're on the national team. And then I made it to world championships. And then it was that year, 1991, that I thought, wow, I mean, the next step really is the Olympics, and maybe I can make it. And I was training so hard and I was just so ready to go and so excited. And then 10 weeks prior to the Olympic trials that summer, I came off of the uneven bars during a workout and I just messed up and I landed badly and I ended up breaking and dislocating my left elbow.
Ooh.
That one moment. It was just that one moment where just everything fell apart. And at first, I didn't even really think about it that much. But by the time I was at the hospital and they were telling me what was going on, and I was rushed into surgery that night to put a screw in to hold the bone together, it was at that point, it was that realization of I may have just had not only an Olympic ending moment, but a career ending moment. And
Oh.
I remember my coach meeting me at the door of the hospital the next day. They were wheeling me out. I was going to go home and rest from the anesthesia. He met me at the door along with my parents. They were there and he looked down at me and he could have said a lot of things. He could have said, I'm so sorry. You know, these things
Mhm.
happen. It's sports and, you know, you take some time and get better and then we'll see where we are. He could have said a lot. He didn't say any of that. He looked me straight in the eye and he said, well, looks like we have some work to do. I'll see you in the gym tomorrow. And it was the exact thing that I needed to hear. I needed to hear that someone believed it was still possible. And that helped me believe in myself. And I did. I was back in the gym the next day. I couldn't do much. I was basically stretching and waiting for my arm to heal. And then when the splint came off, I had to work on straightening it. It was a difficult, challenging recovery, both physically and I think mentally as well, because here I am in the gym each day watching everyone else get better and train routines, and no athlete
Mhm.
wants to be on the sidelines. And yet I know looking back that that time forced me to work on conditioning. It's really conditioning and stretching. Those were the only things I could do without my arm.
Mhm.
And those were also my weakest points. I wasn't the strongest athlete. I wasn't the most flexible athlete. And so having that time where I had to focus on my weakest areas, it really made me a stronger, more well-rounded athlete than ever before. And I was so hungry. Man, I wanted to show I could
Mhm.
still do it. And 10 weeks later, I went into the Olympic trials, which was 100% of my score to see whether I could make the team. And I ended up winning the Olympic trials that year, solidifying my spot on my first Olympic team in 1992, which was over in Barcelona. And it was a lot. I didn't have a lot of time to really think about it. It was just this mad dash to get better and get ready and make the team. And then all of a sudden we're over in France doing our training camp right before the Olympics. It was just a whirlwind, but it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
Oh, that's so awesome. Um, and so not only did you get the opportunity to compete individually, but you got the chance to compete as a team. Can you maybe just talk a little bit on it, obviously as an individual, it's you individually and the team. It's other athletes as well. To make up that magnificent seven. Uh, how was there extra pressure that you were feeling from the media, or you were just going through uh, your your routines, your practices, as well as the other ladies as well?
Well, it is interesting. Gymnastics is both a team sport, but it's also very much an individual sport. We're not out there as a team like basketball or volleyball, where we're kind of all out there together, passing to each other and all those things. So for gymnastics, Barcelona was interesting. There wasn't a lot of media pressure in that one. We hadn't ever really made the podium. So for us, it was just going out there and doing the very best that we could. And to be able to earn bronze in Barcelona in 1992 was might as well have been gold at that point because we were on the podium and we were so excited. And it really was the stepping stone to grasping that gold medal 4 years later in 1996. And so in 1996, we went in, and I would say it felt like there was more pressure. Now, I think we had the benefit of not having social media or really even the internet or any of that to deal with. So we could kind of just, unless you were reading the newspaper, you weren't really focused on what other people were saying. But sometimes you'd be asked in interviews about, oh, you got to get that gold. And so I think there was a little added pressure, but I think for the most part, we just focus on what we're doing on our routines. And I always feel like in sport and in life, when your team goals, whether you're in an office situation or a family situation or gymnastics at the gold medal match, when your goals align, your individual goals align with the team goals, then that's the magic point. And then that's where I always felt like, okay, my job is to go out and to get as close to a perfect 10 on every single event as possible, because not only does that help the team get the biggest score, but it also helps me in, qualifying for the next event or winning a medal. And so for our focus, it's go out, do the very best routine you possibly can on every single event, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Excellent. Uh, how about the mental side? As you mentioned with your injury, uh, may have, I'd say, helped you mentally get stronger because your coach was like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, and you're kind of wondering, coming out of surgery, and am I going to be able to get to that level I need to get to? Can you talk about the mental side, not only on that specific example, but just in general, because you are, as you said, uh, working 10 years to get to a point to make it potentially to the Olympics. So there's a lot of time in the gym, but then there's a lot of time in your head too, I would assume.
I think any athlete, any elite athlete is going to tell you that the mental side of sport is so incredibly important, and oftentimes even more than the physical aspect, because we've all seen the athletes that they're so talented. I can tell you clearly, I was not the most talented athlete, even in my local gym in Oklahoma.
Mm,
There are so many talented athletes, but you have to kind of have the whole package. And the mental side can be sometimes the most difficult
mm,
because you do live in your head a lot. And for me, I think because I was very shy growing up, I did kind of live in my own head, in my own bubble. And I think that was an asset in some ways. It probably hindered me in other ways, but it was an asset in some ways in that I was able to block out the crowd and
mm,
let them in when I needed it. So if I needed the adrenaline at the end of a hard floor routine, last pass, and I'm winded and my legs are going to give out, but I hear the crowd roaring, they might not even be clapping for me, but
yeah.
in my mind, I can turn that around and go, okay, all right, they're giving me the energy, let's go. Or if I'm on balance beam and there's a lot going on, I was very easily able to kind of block out everything going on around me because I kind of lived in that space. But there's more to it than just handling audience and nerves and that portion of it when you're out there on the floor. It's also being able to switch gears, being able to fall and fail, and then being able to pick yourself up and take that next forward step. And I think that portion of it was hard learned for me. I used to, when I was younger, I would fall apart. I would be crying, why can't I get that skill? And it was never that I was injured or hurt.
Mhm.
It just drove me crazy that other athletes would get these skills so quickly. And why can't I do it? I can do it up here, but why can't I do it? And my coach really worked with me, both my coaches, for years to help me understand that it is a waste of time and effort and energy to kind of have those feelings and all of that, and just get back up and try again. Because what else, you might fall again, but that's okay. Every time you fall, every time you fail, you learn something. And so I think with that attitude, going into a zillion competitions, it helped me kind of see that step forward a lot easier. And then I think the other thing that helped me was really just kind of having that support system and being
Mm.
kind of my parents focused on making sure I was fairly well-rounded growing up. I went to public school. I had to do my chores at home, and then I also went to the gym. But I had to have family time. I had to have normal things going on in my life because they were very, very specific that gymnastics is not life. And yes, we want to support you. And that Olympic thing sounds great, but did you get your homework done? How are your grades? Because that your education is your future. Gymnastics is going to come and go no matter whether you win a gold medal or not.
Mhm.
Education is what's going to carry you through life. And so I think with that, I could step on the floor at any competition and understand that this is not a life thing. This is meant to be sport. It's meant to be fun. And yes, the team competition for me was the hardest because other people are relying on you. You want to step forward
Mhm.
and you want to do your best, but also understanding that things are going to happen and you're just not going to be, you're not going to get a 10-0 on everything, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good transition into uh, after retiring from Olympic competition that you did earn your undergraduate degrees in marketing and entrepreneurship from the University of Houston and your law degree from Boston College. I think that definitely underscores that well-roundedness that the Olympics, the gymnastics is going to come and go, but then what happens, after that? Can you just explain what gave you the drive after retiring from Olympic competition to say, hey, I wanna go to school.
Well, I think, part of it is I never stopped going to school. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's what allowed me to kind of continue on because I was still, I started taking college courses while I was training for the 96 games. And so
Oh,
after
okay.
96, I kind of kept going. I went part-time as we toured the nation with, our entire team. And that was a lot of fun, but I kept taking classes. And so then when I finished and retired, I was able to finish my marketing degree. I stayed 2 extra years for the entrepreneurship degree. And at the end of the entrepreneurship program, I felt like I didn't know as much about business law as I really thought I should. And I was already
Mhm.
signing contracts and endorsements and all these things. And you hear of all of these, horrific things that happen to athletes. And so I thought, well, I'll take the LSAT, and if someone lets me into law school, I'll go, and it's meant to be. And so I ended up going to Boston College for law school, and from there really focused on opening my first company, which was focused on women's health and wellness. And that kind of led into me launching that company in 2009. And 6 months after I launched that, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And that has the last 15 years of dealing with well, I launched in 2010, I should say. In 2011 I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and that kind of launched me into 15 years of immersing myself in the cancer community, and now launching my second company, which is Salto Health. So I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, the falls, the failures, the mistakes, the challenges that happen. You just kind of find that next forward step.
Yeah. And my dad a couple years ago was diagnosed with the aggressive small cell cancer, and it spread, and he was already at stage 4 by the time they found it. He went to all his wellness visits over the years, and he's in his 70s, and kind of caught us all off guard. And unfortunately, he had passed. But as some someone who is a family member of somebody who had cancer, uh, with Salto Health, I wasn't sure exactly what it was about when your team sent it over, so I wanted to look into it, and obviously it's in your bio, but I wanted to look more into it, and I think that it is Salto Health is uh, an awesome resource for those family members, those individuals going through treatment. What do I do? What do I need? There's so many things that I learned just as a son uh, of a person going through cancer treatment, no matter what stage it's at. There's
Hmm.
little things that like we continue to live, and we want to focus as much time on the individual and helping them get as well as possible. But as a family, as individuals, uh, as you going through your treatment, is that what gave you is that what gave you the idea of, I want to do something more and give back and with Salto Health, or how did that come about after your first company?
I'm sorry to hear what you went through and what so many families go through. And you're right. It's really kind of how Salto Health and Salto, just for people out there, the name Salto is actually a gymnastics term. It's a somersault. And
Oh,
it's kind of the feeling I felt when I was diagnosed. And when you hear the words, it's cancer, your life is turned upside down. And so I thought it kind of feels like a somersault where you're just turned upside down.
yeah.
But I created Salto Health um, really because I spent the last 15 years immersed in the cancer community, talking with survivors and caregivers and nurse navigators, oncologists, nonprofits, associations. I mean, everyone involved with the whole spectrum. And I had gone from kind of both sides. My mother was initially diagnosed in 2008 with a different type of cancer than mine. And it was the first time that I had ever known anyone close to me that had been diagnosed with cancer. And it was a new world and a new vocabulary. And I didn't know how to help. And it's so difficult because that's what I hear the most from loved ones and coworkers and neighbors. How do I help? What do I do?
Mm.
And then from survivors, talking to so many thousands around the country over the years, I heard them reflect those same things that I was feeling. What do I need? The non-medical items, the things where when you go home from your appointment and you've got to live daily life, what are those things that can help? And I started to get a few tips and tricks along the way from different folks that were already survivors and they could help me out with skincare and how to wear a wig and all of these things. And so last summer I really started putting this company together and saying, you know what? I'm at a point where I want to answer those questions. I want survivors to understand their non-medical needs and be able to easily access them. And I want loved ones and neighbors and caregivers and coworkers to understand how they can help. Because one of the worst things that you hear is those patients that a loved one comes or a neighbor comes over and says, "Let me know how I can help," and then walks away. And for the survivor who's already dealing with the mental, physical, logistical, financial, emotional load, they don't have the wherewithal to find one more thing to have you do to help them. It's like an
Yeah.
extra thing. And so instead, a lot of times survivors will just say, "Oh no, I'm fine," and then suffer in silence. And so Salto Health is really a platform at saltohealth.com. It's a platform, really a tool where you can go on. Survivors and caregivers can put together a gift registry. It's really a support registry, but if you think of it as a baby registry or a wedding
Hmm.
registry, this is a registry specifically for cancer survivors that has curated products for things like chemotherapy treatments and radiation treatment. And these are non-medical items. So you want to think of skincare, hair loss issues and concerns, the comfort products that you need, nutrition, hydration, nausea, neuropathy, all of those things that you're dealing with, even outside of the hospital walls. And so Salto Health was built to supplement all of those things and really provide that connection between what do I need and how can I help? And so it's as simple as sharing your registry, sharing that link with people to help them to give meaningful gifts. After talking with so many survivors over the years, a lot of times you hear things like, "Okay, but I love the flowers." But I really, the smell is irritating me because
Yeah.
I'm nauseous and oh, what if the flowers die? I don't have the energy to take care of them, and then I feel bad. So being able to purchase items off a list that's specifically for a certain cancer survivor's treatment plan and journey is so incredibly beneficial. And so as a loved one, as someone who wants to help, you know that your help is not only welcome, but also very meaningful in the treatment process.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely want to recommend saltohealth.com for anyone out there or who may know of somebody's going through the cancer process. It is it's really amazing to like you said, have a registry like for a baby or marriage registry. Here's the registry of things that we don't really think of. I mean, I even remember that we had my dad at our house, and we're like, we need to eat breakfast, or we need to eat like little things that you take for granted. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, like not only do we need to focus on the individual that is going through the process, but the family members as well. And it's not to be selfish. It's just for us to be
No,
strong enough so we can help in the best way we can.
and that is so important. And that is something that we stress because the resources on Salto Health aren't just the products and services, but they are the articles and the blogs about things just like that. As a caregiver, you're taking on so much in addition to all the things you already do, whether it's, your work or the kids or everything else. You're taking on so much. If the caregiver doesn't take care of themselves, then that's no help to anyone. And so we also really want to embrace the family, embrace the caregiver, because man, that's who's on the front line. That's who's getting to appointments and writing things down. And you've got to make time for yourself along the way. You've got to eat, you've got to get outside and get some fresh air and get some exercise, all of those things that are so important. So we want to also include the caregiver and make sure that they understand what they can do, not only to help the survivor, but to make sure they're staying on track with their own health and wellness.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking, so I'm started Voices for Voices after my mental health diagnoses, major depression, acute anxiety, all the acronyms, ADHD, since 2017. And in my 30s, I wasn't dealing with things. I was just letting things build up, build up, build up, and then all of a sudden it was like I need help. And after I was released from the hospital, my therapist mentioned, "Hey, do you want to? You've already put a pamphlet together for teaching about marketing and in your courses, but what about like your mental health, mental illness journey up until now of growing up and up until current day. And I was fearful because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't know what I wanted to share because as you know, once you share something, it can be found by just about anybody across the world. And anyway, so I decided to go ahead to do it without a ghostwriter, use my name, um, and my own in-laws. I They knew I was in the hospital for like 5 days, and we kind of worked around the truth a little bit of why I was in the hospital. Uh, and I look at those 5 days as my worst 5 days, but then like my best because then I was able to gather my team around me instead of just me trying to take care of things myself. And it has been it's made me feel a little bit lighter, I guess. That like, okay, as
Hmm.
long as I'm doing what the professionals are telling me, and all this really to uh, circle back to Salto Health and you being public about your journey, that you're in the limelight, and you probably had decisions like, do I share my journey or don't I, before you even got to Salto. Can you just talk about how you made that decision to walk people kind of through, and I mean that's what really caught me from a social media side, learning more about you aside from just the Olympics and the gymnastics and being a fighter and that.
Yes, it's hard. I would say while I've kind of grown up in public, I'm a very private person. So
Mhm.
I always laugh that, there's the idea that I would go around the country talking about my ovaries was not exactly in my life plan. But I was diagnosed after surgery January 13th of 2011. And after that, I went through a pretty aggressive chemotherapy regimen. And it was during that portion, right before chemo started, that I kind of had to start making a decision about, was I going to let people know, or was I going to, try to keep it quiet? And I spoke to a couple close people about it, and felt like I have this wonderful platform built through years in gymnastics.
Mhm.
Um, but my platform was also company I launched was devoted to women's health. How can I not speak up and create awareness and do something that I can do with this platform? And so I thought, well, I have to do it. And so I did start talking about my journey. But what it's done really is it's allowed me to reach out to others in
Mhm.
such a wonderful, wonderful way. I have learned so much from so many. And I hope that I've brought some hope and help to others. And if nothing else, created some awareness about signs and symptoms, and early detection, and getting to those regular doctor's appointments, and all of these things that could potentially help someone catch it early or even save a life. And that's what I guess I hoped would be kind of the best case scenario. I never imagined I would be able to kind of take it a step further. Every day you think, well, I can't cure cancer. Like, what am I going
Mhm.
to do? How can I even help people that are in this issue? And I've tried to work with so many different nonprofits and help them bring a voice to the great work that they're doing, and that's been great. But again, I just last summer it was like I got to take it a step further and take all of this information and all of these relationships formed, and say, okay, now how do we put these groups together again? How do we put the what do I need and how can I help, and how can we bridge that gap, fill that gap, so that people are getting what they need when they need it, and loved ones feel really great about helping in a meaningful way. And so I love Salto Health for that. but I will say it came with its challenges as far as talking about my journey, especially initially on after I finished chemo. I was still, I had really severe side effects with nausea and neuropathy and fatigue for almost a year, where I just felt like, am I ever going to feel normal? Am I ever going to feel like myself again? Am I ever going to have energy again? Am I ever going to be able to run and play with my son, who was 16 months old when I was diagnosed? It was, those moments I would go and I would speak to a group, and I might speak for 30 or 45 minutes. And then I would go back to my hotel room and I would sleep for like 12 to 14 hours because it took so much out of me. And I think, many years later, I'm able to kind of keep it a little bit at arm's length, but not so much that I forget what not only I went through, what my mother went through, what my father-in-law, who was going through stage 4 colon cancer at the same time that I was diagnosed, what individuals go through on a daily basis. And a lot of times we think of kind of the big picture when we look back, but for me, it's so important to remember what happens in the morning, what happens in the afternoon, what happens in the evening, what happens on a daily basis when people are having to try to live life, but also battle cancer and try to keep everything intact. And so that's what I always want to keep at the heart of things, and know that we're not going to be able to answer everything. We're not going to be able to cure everything, but what we can do is provide that extra layer of support for survivors and caregivers, support even for nonprofits, associations, hospitals, care centers, so that they're not dealing with so much of the non-medical, how do I get a wig? How do I get this? The daily stuff. How do we provide that support, that arm, so that those areas can do what they do best, and then we can help support in these other non-medical areas that happen outside the hospital walls. So cancer is just hard. It's hard every day and for everyone, and people handle it very differently. I've met survivors that I love, and I wish I could have been that way, where they are able to find the humor in losing their hair, and they are gung ho. Let's go. I'm a thriver, not just a survivor, and I love that attitude. And I think I wish I had known some of those people during my my recovery, but there's also people like my mother who don't want to talk about it. They kind of want to kind of get it done and then just not deal with it. And there's no wrong way to deal with a cancer journey. It's really whatever feels right for you. And then we just want to add that layer that help be part of that circle of support to get you what you need.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for what you're doing. It's so needed. And we'll be sure to share long after we obviously share and drop the episode, and that, because it's so important, and it, don't realize until you're going through it some of the things that just become that they're so small on an average person that become like, oh my gosh, like you said, the skincare, like all these areas that's like, I don't want to leave my loved one at home. So how do I get it? How do I even just go up the block to a Walgreens or see or
Yeah.
somewhere
Well,
to pick
and
some?
getting food and getting to appointments if you're in a rural area, just the gas to get from A to B to make your appointments.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's so important, like every little part of that. I had just quick story.
go ahead. Yep.
I was talking to a company owner about some of the different, products and different things, and he was sharing they do kind of the vacuum sealed, like the tumblers. And he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
we really didn't have that much to do with cancer awareness until I started getting letters. And he was getting letters from women from all over that were talking about the tumbler. And when you think about it, it's like, oh, well, but do they really need a cup? Like that doesn't seem like an exciting, nice gift to get someone who is just diagnosed with cancer. But what people don't often understand, especially if you haven't been through it, is that tumbler. That tumbler is a lifeline. That tumbler is what holds the water or the drink, the hydration that you need to be able to stay on your cancer treatments. And I know that very vividly. I was 5 days in and so behind the curve on hydration that I was put back in the hospital. So I know
Oh,
intimately how important that tumbler is and how that important that water is to staying on your treatments and staying hydrated and kind of helping with the nausea and all of these other things. And so that cup, that tumbler isn't just, oh, that's a cute tumbler. It is a lifeline. It's what you carry with you all day. It's what you stare at as you're sitting in the chair for infusions. It's what you have with you at night. It is the thing that keeps you going in many ways. And so when you look at different products, you might think, oh, well, what's this going to do or what's that going to do?
mm,
Every product has a very specific meaning for what someone is going through. And I think that's really helpful is when people don't know what to give, it's because they haven't had to. I didn't know
yeah.
what to get my mother. Now, when she got diagnosed a second time, then I knew how to help her because I
Oh,
had been through it. But you don't know what you don't know, and so it's really important, I think, also to understand. And for anyone listening out there, it doesn't have to be things. You don't have to spend money to help a survivor. Um, Going and spending some time just sitting. You don't even have to talk. You don't have to have any answers. Just sitting, holding their hand, maybe bringing over a small snack and eating with them, or taking them for a walk, or maybe just bringing over a game so that they just can
yeah.
stop thinking about cancer for a little while. All of those things are so meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, just thinking, yeah, just about with my dad, and you talk about the tumbler, and those things are just, it, they're so important, and it, it's not that we don't have a cupboard full of them, but to have one, specific where it's recognizable to the person that's going through their treatment, so they know, okay, it's pink or it's blue or it's this size or there's a handle or uh,
Or you
it,
think of the loved one that purchased it for you, and you know every time you look at that cup that someone was thinking about you.
oh yeah. So I would like to close out. We're getting close to time, unfortunately, and we really do appreciate you spending so much time with us today. Your legacy, what if if someone 30, 40, 50 years from now remember Shannon Miller, what would be maybe some of the 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 things that you would want to be remembered by, and people go, okay, yeah. And I know not it's a hard question to answer because it's a little bit morbid, but I think that the fact that we've been talking so much about the cancer treatment and going through it, that then when you look back and look at your gymnastics and the Olympics and the medals and all these things, and I I guess I'm just curious on what you would like people to remember about Shannon Miller.
That's a hard one. I think maybe I would want people to remember me as a hard worker because I
Mm-hmm.
think my work ethic is something that's helped me in everything that I've done. It's who I am, but I also hope that people remember me as someone who wanted to help others and make others happy. And I think just, as a middle child, I'm kind of the
Mhm.
peacemaker anyways, but I love that when people talk about the 1996 Olympics. The gold medals are great, but what I love is that people still to this day, almost 30 years later, talk about where they were, what they were doing, and who they were with, and they always have the biggest smile. We got to do that. We got to make people smile, and they're still doing it 30 years later.
Yeah.
I love that. I hope that Salto and the work that I'm doing in the cancer community, I hope that brings some some comfort, some help, some hope, some awareness to others. I hope that in some way it will make people smile when a gift is given or received, that it makes people feel good. So I hope those might be some of the lasting
Mhm.
impressions, maybe.
Yeah. No, and I, I, I I love the fact you said, helping people. I mean, at the core, we're human beings, and so like, we have those choices that some have an easier time doing it and some don't. But just helping people, like you said, it doesn't have to be you have to purchase something. It's just sitting with the person that might be going through the cancer treatment and care. I remember my dad, that's pretty much our whole life. We would sit and watch a ball game, and we might say six or seven words for watching, a 2 hour game or something. And but like it was just the fact that we were in the same room and we just had that comfort. And towards the end of his life, that's what he was saying. He goes, we haven't, we weren't always, people that had to talk and share, just, being here means a lot. And he goes, I know you love me, and I said, yeah, I do. And uh, he kind of, I guess in my mind, I didn't know what to expect, as far as, because we didn't talk a whole lot, so I didn't. I was like, okay, I have to make sure that I tell him I love him, because I mean, I do and did and still do, uh, but I didn't tell him a whole lot. And so once we got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, so that was one thing that I knew I wanted to at least share with him, to him, so he knew, even though he already knew, just to kind of hear it. And then here he is telling me, I'm sorry how I was. I mean, I was a decent baseball player. I didn't go to the college or anything, but just throughout my younger years, I was somewhat successful. And he goes, I'm sorry for, giving you a hard time so much when you're playing ball. And I'm like, here's somebody's like got less than a year, and he's telling me that he he was sorry. I said, like, don't worry about, like, that's the don't like that's not the important part. The important part is that we're together as a family. Um and so that was one thing that I'd always wondered up until that time, hearing friends and other stories of, you know, uh, whether there's things like pent up in their mind that they're like, I have to share this, and so he felt he needed to share that. And I mean, I'm glad he did, but I was like, it doesn't matter, like, just sitting here with you and uh, being able to have the work that I do, to be able to do it remotely, so I could spend as much time at their house. And especially the last 2 weeks, I remember the week he passed on a Friday. I hadn't been to my house in a couple of weeks, and I was talking to the hospice nurse. I just said, I'm gonna just run home, not physically run home, but run home to the house and just grab a shower and then I'll be back. And the hospice nurse took me aside and said, uh, let if you can do that, like I'm not telling you not to, but before you do that, before you go ahead and tell your dad that it's okay to go, like that if he passes when I'm gone, that it's okay. And I had already started getting the signs, what was going on, and I was just like, oh heck no, I'm not leaving now. Like and that was on a Wednesday, and on Friday he passed, and after he went through some of the formalities and everything, she took me aside again and said that I'm glad you stayed, and that's why I took you aside and said, not that you can't go, but let him know. And I'm like, I'm bad at, I'll say like relationships. I guess in the way of like growing up, it was like, okay, you're dating, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna dump this person. But like when it gets like to be like old, it's like I, I, I don't know that I could have. I mean, I would have been able to live with myself somehow, some way. But if I would have left, and then that would have been the time he passed, that was my biggest regret with my grandparents. And granted, I was in high school and playing sports when they passed, but I didn't get a chance to just give them that one last hug and one last I love you. And then I was like, oh no, like this is my dad. Like I can wait a day or two. And again, the other it's like you're just caring for the person, so it's like, yeah, you want to get a shower, you want to get cleaned up, but you also want to be there and
Yeah.
just hold their hand. And he his name is Patrick, and it was uh March 1st of 24 that he passed. And so the board books that we read our children, there was one about St. Patrick's Day, and so I would read that to him. And here I am, his son, and I'm reading, a children's book, and that you'll never forget that. And uh, anyways, I've been just going on. But it just brings so bad that brings back so many memories. That Salto Health can be such an important player in that in that treatment, because it really is. There's so many things that even for me with my mental illnesses, my medication, making sure that if I'm staying at my parents' house, it's only a half hour away, it's not far. But if I'm spending 2 weeks there, and maybe I run out, so I got to get change the pharmacy, or just little things. So,
Hmm.
uh, so thank you so much for what you have done and what you are doing. It really it's people like you that uh, are uh, helping so many people. And like you said, you may meet them, you may not, but you have the tools and the resources. And it's so I just want to say thank you for what you have and what you are doing. It's big. And uh, as big as the Olympics and the medals and that, because it doesn't get any closer to life and being a human.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to share? Uh,
I don't, excuse me. I don't think so.
okay. Well, Shannon Miller, thank you so much for joining us on the show. For our viewers, our listeners, shannonmiller.com. saltohealth.com. That will get you where you need to be, and please share those links as well, because you never know who may be in need of help and support, and maybe you don't need it at this point, but maybe in a year from now, you and your family may uh, unfortunately, go through a situation, and may need some of these resources. And Shannon, I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us. It's been a blessing, and we're really grateful to have you with us and talk about a wide variety of the subjects, and the biggest being just being a human being, and how can we help our fellow humans.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And for our viewers and listeners, we have over 460 episodes in our catalog. Feel free to check those out. You can watch, you can listen. And we want to thank our guest so much, Shannon Miller, for joining us on this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. And until next time, let's try to celebrate everybody's voice and be a voice for ourselves and those that are in need. So we'll see you next time. Bye bye.